SITREP World Briefing for June 7, 2026. The U.S. military said it shot down 2 Iranian attack drones that were threatening shipping traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula that carries a significant share of global oil and gas trade. The exchange marked the latest direct clash between Washington and Tehran in the Gulf, and it unfolded as both sides were already testing a fragile ceasefire framework that has not prevented new military action around one of the world's most strategically sensitive maritime choke points. The confrontation did not stop with the drone interceptions. The United States also struck Iranian radar sites, while Tehran said it had targeted U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, widening the geographic scope of the confrontation beyond the waters off Hormuz and into the broader Gulf security architecture built around American bases, allied shipping lanes, and regional missile and air defense networks. Any military action around the Strait of Hormuz can quickly raise fears for commercial tankers, naval patrols, and energy markets, because even limited strikes near the passage can disrupt insurance, reroute vessels, and push regional states to harden their military posture. By combining drone attacks, U.S. intercepts, and retaliatory strikes on radar and bases, the latest episode showed how easily the Gulf can move from a localized incident to a wider U.S.-Iran confrontation involving multiple countries on both shores of the waterway. Ukraine launched a fresh drone attack on the St. Petersburg region in Russia on the final day of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. The strike involved hundreds of drones, according to the available reports, and it was the second attack aimed at Russia's second-largest city in less than a week. St. Petersburg is a major city with military, industrial, and transport importance, and the host of a flagship Russian investment forum. By striking during the closing phase of the event, Ukraine shifted attention to air defenses, security risks, and the vulnerability of targets deep inside Russian territory. The operation fits a broader pattern in the war, with Ukraine increasingly using long-range drones to bring the conflict to Russian regions far from the front line. Attacks on St. Petersburg carry particular weight because the city has historical prestige, a large population, and direct political importance for Putin. An Israeli strike in South Lebanon killed 3 Lebanese soldiers, including a general, when a car was hit in an incident that the Israeli military said it was investigating. The attack occurred in an area where Israel has been fighting Hezbollah, and it increased pressure on an already fragile border truce by killing members of Lebanon's National Army. Euronews reported that 9 people were killed in the strike, including the 3 Lebanese soldiers, while Lebanese authorities accused Israel of undermining ceasefire efforts. The Lebanese armed forces are one of the few state institutions with a formal security role in the south, where the frontier with Israel has long been shaped by UN monitoring, Hezbollah's presence, and repeated flare-ups. The death of a Lebanese general raises the political stakes in Beirut as well as on the border. Israel's investigation suggests the incident could become a focal point in efforts to preserve the truce, because strikes that hit Lebanese army personnel complicate coordination with the state. Armenians voted on Sunday in a parliamentary election that has become a direct test of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's attempt to loosen the country's dependence on Russia and deepen ties with the West. Pashinyan, seeking a 3rd term, framed the contest as a choice about Armenia's sovereignty and future alignment. The vote was widely described as a referendum on whether Armenia should continue moving away from Moscow's orbit at a time when Russian pressure on Yerevan has intensified. The campaign unfolded against a broader Russia-West confrontation in the South Caucasus, with the European Union and the United States backing Pashinyan's cautious outreach to Western partners. Armenia's strategic position, wedged between Turkey, Iran, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, has made every shift in its foreign policy highly consequential. For many voters, the ballot was not only about party competition in Yerevan, but also about whether Armenia can pursue security guarantees, economic links, and diplomatic support beyond its traditional Russian alliance. The result is also expected to shape Armenia's next steps with Azerbaijan, as regional diplomacy remains tied to questions of borders, security, and outside influence. Analysts have treated the election as a verdict not just on Pashinyan's domestic standing, but on whether Yerevan will keep pursuing a pro-West course while trying to preserve room for negotiation with both Moscow and Baku. That makes the parliamentary vote one of the most important political tests in Armenia since the country began reassessing the reliability of Russian backing after recent shocks in the South Caucasus. Peruvians voted on Sunday in a presidential runoff that will choose the country's 9th president in 10 years. The second-round contest pits conservative Keiko Fujimori against leftist Roberto Sanchez after a first round marked by logistical problems. Both candidates entered the runoff trying to persuade voters exhausted by repeated leadership changes, institutional crises, and a presidency that has become unusually fragile in Lima. The runoff has turned heavily on demands for order and effective government, with insecurity and instability driving voter priorities more than ideology alone. After 8 presidents in 10 years, many Peruvians have signaled that they want a president who can simply remain in office long enough to address violent crime, inequality, and economic frustration. That mood has made the race especially tight, because the winning candidate will need to convince a skeptical electorate that Peru's presidency can again function as a center of authority. The choice between Fujimori and Sanchez carries weight beyond a routine transfer of power. Peru has struggled through years of confrontations between presidents, Congress, and the courts, and each new administration has faced immediate questions about legitimacy and staying power. Sunday's vote is intended to settle who will govern next, but it also serves as a test of whether Peru's political system can deliver a workable mandate at all. Health authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo are confronting a fast-growing Ebola outbreak in the country's east after confirmed cases climbed past 400. Officials said transmission had already spread for weeks before the outbreak was formally announced on May 26, a delay that left communities facing a disease that had circulated largely unnoticed and complicated efforts to identify chains of infection, isolate patients, and organize tracing of contacts across affected areas. The outbreak involves the rare Bundibugyo strain of Ebola, a form that took many local residents by surprise. Congolese responders have had to fight not only the virus itself, but also false claims and rumor, prompting local radio stations and other communicators to broadcast practical information on symptoms, prevention, and treatment in an effort to persuade residents to seek care quickly and cooperate with public health measures. The stakes are high because Eastern Congo has repeatedly been the center of deadly Ebola emergencies, and every delayed diagnosis increases the risk that patients travel, hide symptoms, or turn to informal care before specialized teams can intervene. With hundreds of suspected or confirmed infections already reported, the current response is focusing on public messaging, surveillance, and trust building as much as on clinical treatment. Sources and the full written briefing are available at sitrepbrief.com.